All right, guys, here we go. Welcome to Quack. My name is Claire, and today we are going to be talking about the 5 most important questions you should ask yourself before getting ducks. The first thing you should always ask yourself is, are you able to get more than one? Ducks are incredibly social creatures, and they can become very lonely and depressed if they don't have any friends. So unless you're willing to spend all day, every day with this creature, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snapping, brushing your teeth, everything, get more than one. It's better for them in the long run. Something you should be advised about when getting more than 2 ducks is you need to be really careful about your male to female ratio. You should have about 4 females for every male to prevent overmating. And males really do tend to pick a favorite female at some point or another, so you really need to keep an eye on your females and check if one in particular has missing feathers on the back of their neck. She could be a favorite, and you should isolate her immediately and get some ointment on the back of her neck to help with feather regrowth. The second question you should always ask yourself is, are you able to make the financial commitment in the short term? While ducks themselves are not very expensive, you can usually get them for about $5 to $6 at Tractor Supply. The housing, the food, the water, and the vet, if you are a committed duck parent, can rack up some money. So, with regards to the food, if you have a larger flock, you could be spending anywhere from $50 to $75 a month on food. If you have a larger flock, the bags of 5 pounds are about $25 to $26 per bag. So that's what you're looking at with regards to food. With regards to water, it's going to be on your water bill. You just need to give them fresh water every single day, and ideally they should have like a kiddie pool or really deep buckets or something that they can wash their faces in, clean out their nostrils. When they're foraging through mud in the rainy season, their nostrils get really, really caked with mud, and they need to be able to rinse those out. So for water, that's that. For shelter, if you live in an area that is high traffic for raccoons, coyotes, or any other kind of predator that you know of, you should definitely look into getting a coop for them. You can either build one like we did, or you can buy one from a feed store, Home Depot, that kind of thing. If you build a coop, the lumber can cost, I don't really know what lumber costs, so don't ask me. Our coop is 10 feet by 20 feet and costs about $1,000. So that's what you're looking at for a larger coop, for a larger flock. We have 38 ducks, so we have a pretty big flock to take care of. If you only have 2 or 3, probably don't need to be spending as much money on it because it'll be a lot smaller. The third question you should be asking yourself is, do you have other pets that will be okay with having ducks around? Dogs are probably the biggest one because they're outside the most. Some dogs will be fine with ducks, others will not. An example of not being okay is my parents' dog. I had just hatched some ducklings, and I brought them over to my parents' house because I was spending the night there, and I forgot to close the garage door all the way, and their dog got in and unfortunately ate 2 of them. So he didn't like ducks very much. He was also a bird dog, so it was in his DNA to want to kill them. So that was that. An example of dogs liking ducks is my boyfriend's dad's dog, Roxy. I brought my dog Poppy over a few times, and Roxy just wanted to play with her. She was really sweet with her. She would lick her. She would try and play with her, and Poppy really wanted to be left alone, but, Roxy wanted to play. So there's an example of dogs liking ducks. If you have a dog that you think might not like the ducks, I would just recommend keeping them separate at all times. I wouldn't try and force them to get along. You might run into an uncomfortable situation where the dog will just do everything in its power to try and get to those ducks, and that could be unfortunate. So definitely make sure they're separated. If you have a puppy, a brand new puppy and a duckling, and maybe you want them to be friends, like all those cute Pinterest pictures, I would just very slowly introduce them, keep them in separate pens right next to each other so that they can communicate, but there's no danger, and then slowly just introduce them over time. It may work, it may not. It depends on the breed of dog you have. So yeah, keep that in mind. The fourth question you should ask yourself is, do you want them to be friendly? It takes a fair bit of work to make ducks friendly. When they're ducklings, you need to separate them, all of them. If you have 3, 5, 7, 9, you need to separate every single one. They need to be spending more time with you than they are with each other, or else they will imprint on each other instead of you, which means you have to give them supervised visits between 10 and 15 minutes every day, multiple times a day, which can be a bit of a time commitment that not everybody has. When they're adults, the best way to make them friendly is actually a staged process. Start by hand feeding them. I hand feed my ducks twice a day, in the morning and in the evening, but you're more than welcome to do it 3 times a day, 4 times a day, however much you feel like. It's just they're more hungry if you feed them twice a day and more willing to come up to you for food. No, I don't starve them. I give them between 5 and 8 scoops of food, so they are more than properly fed. So just sprinkle the food a little bit in front of you and let them come up and eat. Eventually, you can graduate to holding out the cup or the bowl, whatever you're feeding them with, and they'll eat out of that bowl. And then eventually, you can pour the food into your hands, offer them the food. They may or may not eat out of your hand. It might take a little more time. It took my ducks quite a long time to get used to that, but they will do it now. And then while you are feeding them out of your hand, you can go ahead and pet them a little bit. They probably won't be paying that much attention to what you're doing because they're focused on the food. They're very food-motivated creatures. So over time, you can probably like pour the food in your lap a little bit, see if one of them will crawl into your lap, and you can really just pet it. People who are willing to invest a ton of time will often have super friendly ducks that'll just come up to them whenever and let them pet them, hold them. But that's not the case for everybody, so just keep that in mind. The fifth and final question you should be asking yourself is, are you okay with potentially not having a very cuddly pet that won't be able to go in the house? Even if you make a duck friendly, they get friendly at varying degrees. They might be okay with being pet but not held. You can probably maybe walk up to them. They might run away a little bit. They might not. It really depends. My friendliest duck, Poppy, she's okay with me petting her. She will tolerate being held for a few minutes, but not super long. None of my other ducks are friendly. They will all run screaming to the hills if I approach them. So you're going to have to break it to your children that they might not have cute, cuddly little ducklings forever. Ducklings tend to be a little more cuddly and willing to be held than full-grown ducks. So keep that in mind. With regard to them being in the house, it is almost impossible to potty train them. They poop about every 5 minutes and they cannot control when they do so, which makes it very difficult to leave them unattended in the house. Poppy will probably join me on here for a couple of episodes. Other than that, she is not allowed in the house because she will poop everywhere. So if you are okay with getting a diaper for them, they do sell duck diapers, or just monitoring them all the time, then sure, it could be a house pet, although they do prefer to be outside. They like to be in nature, being able to forage through mud, leaves, dirt, whatever. They like to be outside. But it's okay to bring them inside every once in a while and just kind of cuddle with them. I would recommend always keeping a towel handy. I always have a towel with me when I bring my ducks inside because they poop. And you just want to be prepared. Unless you're a veteran duck owner and are just okay with being pooped on. I have come to be okay with being pooped on. My boyfriend finds it disgusting. I'm just used to it at this point. So if you're okay with being pooped on, no towel. But even I keep a towel around because it's kind of gross. All right, there you have it. The 5 questions you should always ask yourself before getting a duck. Ducks are super rewarding animals to have if you take care of them properly. And I hope you will come to love them as I do if you find that these 5 questions are yeses for all of them for you. I hope you enjoy your ducks if you choose to get them. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.